Hey folks, welcome back to Game Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today we're taking a look at a state of gaming, but this is more of like a state of Bethesda. And a lot of us, kind of feel like Starfield is kind of lifeless, or like, what's really missing? And for me, I've taken some time to really think about this because I saw stuff with Shattered Space. I've watched quite a few different reviews from people, and I might have figured out why, just like what is lying underneath that we keep coming back to, of just why Starfield is a fair game, but just does not meet our expectations whatsoever. So for Bethesda, it's had a really big impact with RPGs. Some of the biggest games were made by them and are still played today, like Fallout 4, Skyrim, and Fallout 76. The game that made their reputation for a lot of us was Morrowind and Fallout 3. They had innovative mechanics in Fallout 4 and Skyrim. And then they've made also some unique games, like Fallout 76 was multiplayer. We also had like the camp system that you could move around and kind of like move your base around and spawn and stuff. And then Starfield, it's a totally different setting and era to play in. And like the opportunities and possibilities are quite vast. But it just feels like it's missing something. So some big issues that a lot of us have really quick is like the game is mostly empty due to the procedural generation. We have vast spaces, rarely a point to explore. We have 1,000 planets with basically nothing on most of them. And while they wanted that to be realistic, there's just way too much there and not enough actual reward for exploring. And so we're just not incentivized. That's probably the biggest issue. There's also a lot of repeated areas too, like labs, mines, caves. It just feels like the same place. Again, there's nothing there, and it just kind of takes away from like the fun of exploring and what kind of made some of the other games like Fallout, Oblivion, and Skyrim special, and feel like there was a point to actually exploring. Another issue too, before the rover, on average, it took 4 minutes to get to one place from another on the planet or moon's surface. And then by the time we got there, generally there was kind of nothing there. And that was brutal. That was brutal to me. Most games that are open world, it takes about 45 seconds, maybe 60 seconds at a max. And so we're talking Bethesda's like 4 to 5 times greater to jog from one place to another, which is kind of insane. You just burn a lot of time traveling. We finally did get the rover, but we kind of really had to beg for it from Bethesda. And they initially didn't want to put it in, but for Pete's sakes, it's like, we seriously don't have any type of ground travel for a massive area when we land on a planet or a moon. It takes so long. And being someone that doesn't have a super long time to play, in some cases, sometimes when I played Starfield, I didn't really feel like I got anywhere or even really did anything in my couple of hours that I played. And that was kind of tough. And then when they did implement the rover, the planets and areas weren't really designed for it. So it's constantly getting stuck all the time. And it's not perfect, but it's at least better than it was, right? But the biggest thing for me that was missing was the conflict in the story. And I think this is huge. And I haven't heard anybody, talk about this yet. Like Young Yeah, Angry Joe Show, Lucas Stevens, Mr. Matty Plays, or even Bellular News. I haven't really heard them talk about anything like this yet, and it dawned on me during a night shift. And so, with no conflict, the story just kind of feels empty. Just kind of feels like you're doing a bunch of side quests and just kind of exploring and whatever. And that's okay. Some people really have like wanderlust, and like it's wonderful to explore. Some of us really like seeing new places and just kind of being solo and isolated out there and exploring things, myself included. But like something that a lot of the other Bethesda games had was this conflict, and that proceeded through and perpetuated through the entire storyline, and you'd hear NPCs talk about it and stuff. So like Fallout, you were exploring the survival after nuclear war, and then you had the super mutants on top of it. That was a massive part of the story, and that was just constantly ongoing conflict in the game. Fallout 4 was between the Institute, Brotherhood of Steel, and the Railroad. New Vegas was between the NCR and Caesar's Legion. And then you also had the families in New Vegas and Mr. House. In Elder Scrolls Oblivion, you had the entire world of humans at the time, and everyone else, basically society and all of the other races and everything against the Daedra. That was the entire story. That one was actually my favorite. In Skyrim, we had the Nords and the Dominion, and then the existence of the dragons. Hence the whole thing of being Dragonborn and everything. So there's conflict in like every single game. And while there were other pockets of other factions or other groups or whatever, there was also other things too to constantly. There was just always kind of stuff going on, which was nice. In Fallout 76, unfortunately, they didn't have this. The setting in the story was all about what the players were doing in the game. There weren't actually NPCs. And later down the road, after about 18 to 24 months, they really fixed all this by putting in NPCs, putting in stories, side quests, raids, putting in an arena to really kind of make it more lively. And they've been doing updates, some free, some paid ever since. But like with Starfield, we have the United Colonies and Freestar, but this isn't really in conflict anymore. All of this already took place, and we just kind of have like a treaty or like an understanding now. And instead, the main conflict or the main thing we're focused on in the game is the artifacts. And while I still think this was fun, I still think this was cool, I don't think it should have been the main plot in the story. I think it should have been more like a side quest or something to do that was like a pretty big side quest, because that's what I felt like I was doing, fetching items to ultimately get to a location to to start getting some abilities and stuff and start finding out what's going on. But imagine if Starfield, kind of wipe your mind for a minute of what you know about it, and imagine if Starfield was in the middle of a war between the United Colonies and Freestar. You can pick a side, or you can be a mercenary and play both sides. Your side quest would be trading, resupplying war efforts, helping people caught in the middle of the war. You can fight in space, you can fight on land. There's events that are large-scale NPC fights, like with what we had with Oblivion. There's also mechs in the game. NPCs can use mechs, and you can have mechs too, instead of just having like a suit of armor, like in Fallout. You can play the politics. You can affect treaties and allies. You can affect the funding of the war. You can assassinate big NPCs to change some of the story or the direction of the war. You can damage or destroy space stations. And then ultimately your actions decide the outcome of the war. I mean, imagine that. Imagine if that was Starfield. I really think that would be pretty incredible. And even if it was a lot more buggy than with the Starfield that we got, I would want to play it. I would want to pay for it. It would be enticing. There would be something always there kind of in the background, even if I'm doing other side quests that are more chill or more relaxed. I still know that the war is going on, and it's affecting pretty much every single aspect of space. And then I think that boring part of the game would be gone. A lot of people, including modders, were just like, look, we're not going to work on any of our mods for Starfield. We're not going to do this. It's kind of a waste of time. It's just kind of a canvas, but like not much is going on. And there's some other issues too with Bethesda. Like some have complained about the writing, or like Skyrim or like Oblivion was peak. And we all have our opinions on that, but I really think the issue with Starfield is just that the overarching setting of what's going on is just kind of more of the same without the conflict. And that's why it feels empty to me, why it feels hollow, why it's not enticing to actually keep playing and engaging. And I think that's what's tough about it. So what do you guys think? What do you think's missing? Do you think I hit the nail on the head? And let's keep having a discussion too, because maybe eventually Bethesda's going to pay attention, because they got to hear the feedback. Because a lot of us now are worried about Elder Scrolls 6, and Fallout 5, myself included. If they think Starfield is the best game they've ever made, if they think Shattered Space was a deal for $30, $35, I think they're out of touch a little bit. I think maybe too the studio was too big for itself. Maybe having hundreds of people is maybe not the best thing, because again, some of the other games that I mentioned, like Fallout 3, or New Vegas or Skyrim, okay, they weren't made by like hundreds and hundreds of people like Bethesda is today. They were made with a smaller group that was more tight knit, and they could make good games, and they did. I mean, we've played them, and I talk about this kind of stuff because too, I want Bethesda to succeed, and it's not just Bethesda; it's just the general game industry. So, if you like what you heard, go ahead and like, share, sub, all that stuff. Especially share with the channel. I think that helps out the algos quite a bit. And then, yeah, you can always find me at Gaming Garbage 22 over at YouTube. Don't forget Discord, Twitter X, and Twitch. Twitch, you can find all of my stuff there first. If you want it right away, all unedited. It just is what it is. And then on YouTube, it's a little bit more refined. So hopefully you guys are doing well, and I'll see you guys on the next one.